Sir, you can't board this plane." The flight attendant's voice was firm, her expression unmoving. Patrick Mahomes froze. His ticket was valid. His seat confirmed. So why was he being stopped? Passengers stared. Phones started recording. Something wasn't right. And just minutes later, that same flight attendant would face consequences she never saw coming. What really happened at that gate? And how did it all go so wrong? So fast? Stay with me, because this story is unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes blinked, momentarily thrown off by the words. The low hum of airport announcements echoed overhead, blending with the distant chatter of travelers and the occasional rolling of suitcase wheels against the polished floor. He had flown countless times. Boarding was routine, effortless. But now, standing at the gate with a valid ticket in his hand, he found himself denied. Passengers behind him shifted, exchanging quiet murmurs. A few already had their phones out, not recording yet, but watching. Patrick kept his expression calm, though a flicker of unease stirred in his chest. "There must be some mistake," he said, his voice steady but firm. He gestured at his ticket. "I booked this flight days ago." The flight attendant, still holding his boarding pass, tapped her manicured nails against the counter. She didn't look at the screen. Instead, she looked at him. Really looked at him. With something unreadable in her eyes. "I'm afraid you won't be flying with us today." The way she said it, it wasn't professional. It wasn't apologetic. It was final. The tension in the air thickened. Patrick could feel eyes on him. Someone cleared their throat behind him. A mother clutched her child's hand a little tighter. And for the first time in his career, it wasn't the roar of a stadium that surrounded him. It was silence. Patrick could feel the shift in the air, subtle at first, like a low-pressure system before a storm. A man a few feet behind him frowned, adjusting the strap of his carry-on. "Wait a second," he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. "That doesn't make sense. His ticket is valid." The flight attendant's expression barely flickered. She kept her posture upright, hands neatly folded over the counter, but Patrick didn't miss the way her fingers tapped lightly against the surface. A nervous habit, maybe, or just a sign that she was used to exercising power without being questioned. "Sir, it's just policy," she said, her voice airy, almost dismissive. "I can't let you board today." But Patrick caught it, that tiny, fleeting smirk. It was there for barely a second before she masked it behind professionalism, but he saw it. And in that instant, something inside him clicked. This wasn't about his ticket. This wasn't about airline policy. This was personal. Patrick inhaled slowly, grounding himself. "Is there a real reason I can't board, or is this something else?" For the first time, the attendant hesitated, just a flicker. But the damage was done. Someone to his right pulled out their phone. A quiet beep of a camera app starting. More whispers. The energy in the crowd shifted from mild curiosity to something heavier. A quiet, growing outrage. The murmur in the terminal grew louder. A few more passengers pulled out their phones, their screens glowing in the dim airport lighting. Patrick could feel it, the weight of dozens of eyes on him, waiting to see how he'd respond. But before he could speak, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "You've got to be kidding me." Patrick turned his head slightly. Travis Kelce. Standing just a few feet away, arms crossed over his chest, Travis wasn't just watching, he was stepping in. His expression was sharp, his stance unwavering. Unlike Patrick, he didn't hesitate. "Are you actually denying him boarding? What's the excuse?" The flight attendant stiffened, her forced politeness cracking. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." Travis let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. "Oh, It definitely does. He glanced around at the growing crowd, then back at the attendant. You see all these people watching? You think this isn't gonna blow up? A flicker of uncertainty flashed across her face. For the first time since this started, she seemed to realize she was losing control of the situation. Travis stepped forward slightly, lowering his voice, but keeping it firm. Listen, we both know what this is about. You can fix it now, or you can explain yourself later when this hits every news channel in the country. The tension reached its peak. The flight attendant's face paled just slightly. She swallowed hard, glancing at the passengers, at the phones pointed in her direction, at the airline logo above her head. And then, just as suddenly as she had denied Patrick, she caved. She sighed dramatically, pressed a few buttons on the screen, and without making eye contact muttered, "Fine. Your ticket is valid. You can board." A few people in the crowd exhaled. Someone clapped softly. But Patrick didn't move. He studied her for a long moment, then shook his head. "No, I think I'll take another flight." The message was clear. Just because she had changed her mind didn't mean the issue was forgotten. The airport terminal buzzed with energy, but the real storm was brewing online. Within minutes of Patrick and Travis walking away, the first videos hit social media. A shaky clip from a passenger in line captured the moment the flight attendant refused Patrick Mahomes, her dismissive tone clear as day. Another showed Travis stepping in, his voice sharp, his frustration unmistakable. The captions were brutal. Patrick Mahomes denied boarding. Was this personal? Twitter exploded. Sports pages picked it up. Influencers and news outlets started reposting the clips. Did this flight attendant just try to power trip the face of the NFL? One tweet read. The engagement was instant. Likes, shares, and outrage pouring in. The airline, scrambling to control the narrative, issued a rushed statement. We are aware of an incident involving a passenger and are reviewing the matter internally. But it was too late. Screenshots of the attendant's smug expression had gone viral. Then came the real damage. A former passenger dug up an old complaint, a similar case of unjustified denial of service by the same flight attendant. Others chimed in. Patterns emerged. The airline had no choice. By the end of the day, she was fired. The backlash was swift and relentless. Within hours, the video had spread beyond sports circles, igniting debates on fairness, professionalism, and accountability. News outlets dissected the footage, replaying the moment Patrick Mahomes was unjustly denied boarding, while social media swarmed with outrage. Inside the airline's corporate office, executives scrambled. The PR team worked overtime, drafting a carefully worded apology. We take all customer concerns seriously and are conducting an internal review. But it was too late. The internet had already passed judgment. Meanwhile, Patrick remained silent, letting the truth unfold on its own. He wasn't one to engage in public feuds, but the principle of the situation stuck with him. It wasn't about special treatment. It was about basic respect. Then, the final blow came. A former employee anonymously leaked internal emails revealing past complaints against the flight attendant. This wasn't her first incident. The airline had looked the other way before, but this time, under the weight of public scrutiny, they couldn't. By the next morning, an official statement confirmed it. She had been terminated. Patrick didn't celebrate. When asked about it, he simply said, I just hope this makes people think. No one should be treated differently because of who they are. What would you have done in Patrick's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening stories that make you think.